The air in Westminster Abbey hung thick with expectation, the kind that precedes a coronation or a state funeral. Today, it was neither. It was a routine ceremonial appearance, a carefully choreographed dance between the monarchy and the political establishment, or so everyone thought. Prince William, usually a master of diplomatic smiles and understated gestures, was about to detonate a bomb in the heart of British politics. The fuse? A carefully worded statement, 12 devastating words honed over 2 sleepless nights designed to defend his father and, perhaps, the very institution of the monarchy itself. The catalyst for this unprecedented royal intervention wasn't some grand policy disagreement or constitutional crisis brewing in the shadows. It was something far more insidious. A calculated, coordinated campaign orchestrated from within Downing Street to undermine King Charles. Leaked WhatsApp messages, the digital equivalent of a smoking gun, revealed the chilling truth. Keir Starmer's inner circle, the very people entrusted with upholding the traditions of British democracy, were plotting to dismantle the king's reputation, painting him as an out-of-touch, politically biased relic. The aim was clear: to bolster Labour's flagging poll numbers by turning the public against the monarchy. One message, attributed to a Downing Street aide, was particularly venomous. We need to make Charles the villain, old, interfering, unelected. The public needs to see him as the problem, not us. The audacity of it was breathtaking. To use the machinery of government, the resources of the state, to wage a clandestine war against the sovereign. It was a betrayal of trust, a violation of the unspoken contract between the crown and the elected representatives of the people, and it was about to backfire spectacularly. Leaked messages were just the tip of the iceberg. Documents obtained by the Telegraph suggested that Labour's strategy unit had been wargaming this attack on the monarchy for months, spending over £300,000 sterling, 0 pence of taxpayer money, on American political consultants, the same firms known for their scorched earth tactics in the United States. Think about that for a moment. While ordinary Britons struggled to pay their energy bills, while families worried about putting food on the table, Starmer's government was secretly funding a campaign to smear the king. Prince William, a man known for his measured temperament and unwavering commitment to duty, could not stand idly by. He knew that silence would be interpreted as weakness, as tacit approval of this underhanded assault on his father and the monarchy. He made a decision that palace insiders described as unprecedented. He would break royal protocol, shatter the carefully constructed wall of neutrality that had shielded the crown for decades. He would speak out, and he would do it in the most public way imaginable. The weight of history pressed down on William as he stood in Westminster Abbey, the ancient stones echoing with the voices of kings and queens past. He knew that his words would reverberate far beyond the Abbey walls, that they would be dissected and analyzed, praised and condemned. But he also knew that he had no choice. The monarchy, the institution that had shaped Britain for centuries, was under attack, and he, as heir to the throne, had a duty to defend it. Princess Catherine, his unwavering confidant, had urged him to act, telling him, "Your father needs you. Britain needs you. If not now, then when?" The stage was set, the political elite were assembled, the cameras were rolling. Prince William stepped forward, his gaze steady, his voice resonant, and delivered the 12 words that would plunge Britain into a constitutional crisis. "My father's wisdom and dedication to this nation require no defense from any politician." The silence was indeed deafening. You could almost hear the gears grinding in the minds of those assembled. The frantic calculations of political survival. Starmer, the architect of this ill-conceived attack, stood frozen, a deer caught in the headlights of royal disapproval. His face, moments before radiating the practiced confidence of a prime minister, was now a mask of ashen shock. The carefully constructed image of steely leadership crumbled before the unwavering gaze of the Prince of Wales. The ripple effect was instantaneous. Social media exploded with a fervor rarely seen outside of major sporting events or celebrity scandals. Defend the Crown became a global phenomenon, a digital tidal wave of support for the monarchy and condemnation for Starmer's perceived treachery. Video clips of William's statement went viral, shared and reshared with fervent enthusiasm. The public, it seemed, was not willing to tolerate an attack on an institution they held dear. But it wasn't just the orchestrated outrage of social media that spelled trouble for the Prime Minister. It was the raw, unfiltered emotion of ordinary Britons, the people Labour claimed to represent, who felt betrayed by their leader's actions. Margaret Davies, the retired nurse from Cardiff, became an overnight sensation with her simple, heartfelt video. Her words, "That's not strength, that's weakness, that's shame," resonated with millions, cutting through the political spin and striking at the heart of Starmer's credibility. The contrast between the Prime Minister's actions and the struggles of everyday Britons was becoming increasingly glaring. While Downing Street spent lavishly on consultants and media strategists, veterans like Michael Patterson, who had risked their lives for their country, were sleeping rough on the streets. The Daily Mirror, a staunch Labour supporter for generations, captured the national mood perfectly with its damning headline, "Veterans Freezing While Starmer Plots Against the King." King Charles's response was a masterclass in statesmanship. Eschewing anger or political point scoring, he chose the path of dignity and historical perspective. Addressing Commonwealth leaders at a private dinner, he reaffirmed the Crown's commitment to service and stability, reminding the world that the monarchy stood above the fray of partisan politics. His words were a subtle but unmistakable rebuke to Starmer, a clear signal that the king would not be intimidated or bullied. Behind the scenes, the crisis was spiraling out of control. Senior members of the House of Lords were exploring the possibility of formally censuring Starmer, a move that would be a constitutional earthquake. Even within Labour's own ranks, dissent was brewing, with several peers privately indicating their support for such a motion. The pound plummeted as international investors grew jittery about Britain's political stability. Labour's poll numbers cratered, plunging the party to a historic low. The situation inside Downing Street was described as chaotic and paranoid. Ministers were at each other's throats, advisors were leaking against each other, and WhatsApp groups were rife with plotting and recrimination. Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who had spent months carefully building Labour's economic credibility, was reportedly furious, accusing Starmer's team of destroying everything she had worked for. The knives were out and the Prime Minister was the target. But perhaps the most damning indictment of Starmer's leadership came from leaked internal Labour polling, which revealed that a staggering 79% of voters no longer trusted him to respect British institutions and traditions. A Prime Minister without legitimacy is a Prime Minister without power. He becomes a puppet, dancing to the tune of his enemies, unable to lead, unable to govern, unable to command the respect of his own party. While Starmer's premiership teetered on the brink, Prince William was quietly maneuvering behind the scenes, meeting with leaders from across the political spectrum, including Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK. These meetings, Palace insiders insisted, were not about politics, but about protecting constitutional stability. But the message was clear. The heir to the throne was building alliances, preparing for whatever might come next. William's opening gambit in those meetings was a masterstroke. "I'm not here as a political figure," he'd reportedly say. "I'm here as someone who loves this country and wants to ensure we don't tear ourselves apart." It was a disarming, almost plaintive appeal to national unity, one that subtly cast Starmer as the divisive force. Farage, sensing an unprecedented opportunity, played his hand with surprising restraint. Gone was the usual bombast and bluster, in its place a calm, almost statesman-like demeanor. "While others attack our traditions and our king, Reform UK will always defend them," he declared, his words resonating with a public hungry for stability. The result was immediate. Reform UK's membership exploded. Donations poured in, and the party found itself almost overnight transformed from a fringe movement into a genuine contender for power. Parliament was a pressure cooker ready to blow. The atmosphere was toxic, the air thick with resentment and suspicion. Starmer, looking gaunt and exhausted, faced Prime Minister's questions like a condemned man walking to the gallows. Sunak, smelling blood, launched a relentless attack, meticulously dismantling Starmer's credibility with a barrage of evidence, leaked documents, and contradictory statements. It was a brutal, clinical takedown, designed to leave no doubt in the public's mind that Labour's campaign against the monarchy had been deliberate and coordinated. Reform UK, seizing the moment, called for an emergency vote of no confidence, a move that sent shockwaves through Westminster. The constitutional implications were staggering. Britain was teetering on the brink of a political abyss, facing the prospect of an early election and the potential collapse of the Labour government. Constitutional experts warned of unprecedented dangers. Professor David Langford, a leading academic at Cambridge University, declared that Britain was witnessing a confrontation between elected power and constitutional tradition unlike anything since the English Civil War. If Starmer pushes forward, he cautioned, he risks fracturing the nation permanently. If he backs down, he's finished politically. There's no way out. The nation was gripped by a collective anxiety. Families argued, friendships were strained, and the very foundations of British identity were being questioned. At the center of the storm stood Starmer, isolated, desperate, and seemingly out of his depth. But even as Starmer's world crumbled around him, a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected source. Moderate Labour MPs, horrified by the chaos and sensing the impending electoral disaster, began to quietly explore alternative leadership options. Names like Shadow Health Secretary Wes Streeting and Shadow Home Secretary Yet Cooper were being whispered in the corridors of Westminster, potential saviors who could rescue the party from the wreckage of Starmer's miscalculation. The question was, could they act quickly enough? The clock was ticking, the public was demanding answers. The monarchy was waiting, and Nigel Farage was poised to seize the opportunity and rewrite the political map of Britain. The next 72 hours would determine not only Starmer's fate, but the future of the nation itself.